Well, hello there. Welcome back again to the Merge Roundtable. I'm Mark Hopkins, and I am here today with Frank Kushner and Jim Durbin. Hello, gents. We're gonna talk a bit about all the same topics we talk about every freaking week. I think it's Bitcoin.
It's comforting in a way. It's comforting.
AI. We're gonna talk about Tether. We're gonna talk about DEI. I'm sure Taylor Swift will make an appearance in the conversation again this week.
Do they still play tetherball?
Tetherball?
Yeah. Do you remember how much fun that stupid thing was?
Sure, someone does.
You get a
pickleball now.
No. You get the. You guys remember what I'm talking about? You get a tire, you fill it with cement, you get the pole, or you put the pole in the backyard, and you just smack that thing around. And then once you get it, you're just jumping. And I miss that.
Yeah.
I need to go put that in my backyard.
Yeah, why not?
That's the nostalgia. You guys want to build a tetherball court this weekend?
God, make sure that you get that umbrella policy before you do that, and don't disclose.
I'm old enough. One swing. I'm typing left-handed for the rest of my life.
So, just to put a button on this intro here,
Sorry, man.
Merge Roundtable is brought to you by Harper Belmont Studios. You should start a podcast. Go to harperbelmont.com, check it out, and stick around after this intro package, and we will be talking about all the things, maybe some tetherball, after this. Figured we give people an opportunity to understand that it's possible to sponsor this show. It's not just a joke about your coffee cup.
I know, and also, just so people know,
Oh, you got some aged news there.
I do, but like at least you know it's the right date. This is truly the right.
This is Frank's witness thing here.
I am really. I'm in trouble.
What's shocking is how many people might not know what that means. Like they might not understand why, because who has newspapers?
Yeah. Well, how else are you supposed to actually find out whether or not it really is the right date? Because
How can you prove it? We can fake it. You can print. I could make it print that.
Right,
Literally, Microsoft Word has a newspaper template. You could print that yourself. And
So what was the big occasion, aside from showing us that because we all
Here's
know
the
what a
old tech.
newspaper
Yeah.
is.
So what was fun about it was I really, as you guys know, with my fiduciary bent that we've been on lately, I just couldn't help but seeing that the first thing I see is sharing the pain, and it's talking about the cost of medical insurance rising in 2023, and again next year they're expecting another 4 to 6% rise in it, and then they wonder why. And right next to it is a whole separate story about a hospital and their lawsuits, and it's taking a toll on the town because the hospital is actually like old school, like argumentative style in front of a judge, 4,000 to 5,000 lawsuits at a time being settled, and collecting money from people, getting judgments on people in the community that have used the hospital, right? So it's like, why is healthcare costs going up? Because hospitals are doing things like this, and they have to because they're trying to stay in business themselves. So I just thought it was interesting. And then, yes, I absolutely wanted to start taking some of the grief on what this actually is.
think how strange it is. There are people watching this that they've never seen someone pick up a newspaper and read it on camera. Like they can't imagine that.
I mean, you see it in movies, maybe.
I don't know what movies they watch.
Jen and I were talking about doing a merge newspaper because we found a just-in-time print delivery service that will actually do it for remarkably cheap. So if you want a merge newspaper, I mean, just, leave a comment on wherever you're seeing this.
And let us know how much you're willing to donate towards that production.
Exactly, yeah. No, you have to pay for it. That's the thing. Aged news isn't free.
No, real news.
I wonder how much of that's written by AI now.
On that piece of paper? That's a good question. Yeah. So we're going to talk about AI safety. That was like the big thing off the top because President Biden has put out an executive order that amongst many, it's like an omnibus AI EO because the one he did back in November
they were working on it.
Wasn't big.
Right,
well, we've already put one out, but now here's another one.
Okay.
This one has a lot of mandates for, how the government needs to use AI to reduce the cost of veteran health care and just like all these weird esoteric things like that. But there's a huge chunk of it devoted to AI safety, which is, as we know on this show, a code word for let's entrench the big players.
Regulation.
Yeah, regulatory capture. So they're specifically saying that the move is part. Okay, I'm going to read the propaganda and then we'll dissect it, what it actually means. Okay, so the Biden administration is implementing the new requirements for AI developers to disclose safety test results to the government. The move is part of the managing rapidly evolving AI technology problem. The White House AI Council, they've got a council now, will review progress on an executive order signed by Biden 3 months ago, including a mandate under the Defense Production Act for AI companies to share vital information, including results of safety tests, with the Commerce Department. They're just getting everybody involved in this. It's like defense and council.
It's the structure of
commerce.
all these written that bothers me most.
Yeah.
So if you look at the language, their safety, what is actually being asked, we need you to tell us what it is that you're doing. So this is similar to the New York City law that they passed about AI audits for talent acquisition. You can't use a software that selects, sorts, filters, or picks anybody or ranks them of any kind unless you've had a third-party independent auditor come and audit that software, and you provide the results of that to New York City, which is, we all know, is called evidence. It's basically saying we would like you to provide all the evidence so we can sue you. That's what all that stuff is. The safety standards aren't, because what is a safety?
So safety
what you're saying is
agencies
yeah.
like the National Institute of Standards are now responsible for establishing the standards of AI safety and security that will apply to these critical infrastructure sectors, including but not limited to biological synthesis screening standards. So if you're using AI to create new organisms,
That's literally what they said.
Yeah.
AI generated content or AI enabled creation of dangerous biological materials. That's what's known as a as a bait. It's just bait.
Do you think this was written by AI?
Oh God!
It might have
Honestly,
been.
oh my God! Honestly, looking at it a little bit.
Department of Commerce will develop guidelines for detecting AI-generated content and authentic official content. So this is our Taylor Swift story that we talked about last week.
Ugh.
And cybersecurity measures, an advanced cybersecurity program will be established to develop AI tools to find and fix vulnerabilities in critical software. So they like AI in that sentence, but the other ones, it sounds like it's scaremongering. I don't know.
It's not a bad idea to put this stuff out. Does it have any teeth?
Oh yeah, non-compliance. I mean, this is the thing that I don't want to mix the two stories, but we were talking about in the Bitcoin story. The way he's constructed this EO and the EO about Bitcoin mining, which we'll get into later, is they went and spent time looking for existing laws and really existing guidance memos from different bureaucracies, and then started to string them all together so that there is existing criminal penalties for non-compliance.
Jesus.
And they're very flimsily strung together, as you would expect. But, who wants to go up against the DOJ on criminal penalties?
Yeah.
Not me anymore. I did that once.
I don't want to do it, and I haven't done it before.
Yeah, right.
I don't want to do it once.
You will.
Do you want to do it? No. I just want to make sure he was involved.
Yeah.
So we're all in agreement. None of us want to be in a criminal. Okay.
Yeah. So
It's a good point, Mark.
yeah. Yeah. Not
is
legal advice.
terrifying,
I'm not
though.
your lawyer.
They're
but,
adding that
can I say
together
on
because
this
that is
network?
kind of similar to what happened to you, where they take something and they end up turning it into a criminal penalty. And how much of that?
This is the first that I've heard of this topic, obviously, as far as like what recently happened, and so I'm just synthesizing it as if I was just hearing it for the first time, like everyone else listening right now, and I'm just kind of confused that like we know that this is not even the very first inning of the first inning. This is like so early on into what it's actually doing. How
Right.
can you try to regulate everything that it's going to be able to do? We don't know how it's going to work. I mean, you kind of want to be able to try to figure out the
Think of it as a
productive
shower curtain in a
uses of it,
bathroom.
right?
I mean, if you turn the shower on, you don't have a shower curtain. It's a little late after you turned it on.
Is this kind of like knowing that there are police out there, but also knowing that, maybe you should...
There are some good
Protect
folks. I have
yourself ahead of
I have a
time.
friend
I
of
mean,
mine
like,
who's involved in cybersecurity
What are they
for
gonna do? What are they
the
helping?
government, and because it is a big problem. I get why.
I mean, I've heard there's good people on both sides, but go ahead.
Oh, jeez.
sorry. I'm sorry.
That was on me. I took a shot at you earlier. It's only fair. Truce, Nepo truce.
Yeah.
No, so the guys, Andrew is involved in that. He talks about it all the time, that there are concerns. It's good that the government's looking at that. They're coming up with different things involved. And, of course, now you have James O'Keefe with the cybersecurity guy from the White House, the guy just flat out spitting out secrets for a date, or at least pretending it. Did you see that one?
I mean, I heard about it. I haven't watched it, though.
He sits down with somebody who's with the White House, who's in cybersecurity. James O'Keefe, who's well known, has been doing this now at this point for at least 15 years.
Yeah.
14, 15 years. All he did was put on glasses and a fake gay accent. It gets this guy. I mean, the number of times that they go out on dates in D.C., and the guy didn't even notice it until he goes, "Ha-ha, it's me."
He really did
Literally.
that?
And then chased him out the restaurant.
Oh,
because
Lord.
the guy was saying some, I mean, I don't get at all those things, but the point is that that's cybersecurity in the government. I mean, the truth is OPSEC doesn't work anymore. What really bothers me is now we have to tell them who every registered person is, every $600, the amount of stuff they want to share. Why? I feel like the same way I do with social media companies. We're like, well, give us more. We'll follow up. I'm like, I don't want to follow. I don't give you any more. You have enough. Do what with what? Why do you keep asking for more stuff? And the answer is they're lazy. That's what it really comes down to. You've seen that, where it's like drunks looking for their car keys under the light. They want you to hand them the information.
Yeah.
And I just, at a certain point, I mean, when you do RFPs and stuff, how many paperwork do we fill out that's some random thing that I don't think people realize? The amount of time
not
spent.
Just feel incredibly intrusive.
For no reason. That no one's ever going to read it unless you get in trouble. That's what annoys the shit out of me. There's no point in it unless you're getting in trouble.
I mean, I know we don't have a
here's
constitutional right to privacy, but like it feels like if I don't want to talk about something, I shouldn't be compelled to talk about something. Like this is so right now they're not coming and knocking on my door,
right?
Because I don't fall into the I'm not using enough CPU cycles to qualify. That's literally what it is. I'm not using enough CPU cycles to qualify. But let's say I was working for that job for Stram, or I'm doing some RFP related stuff where I'm analyzing data at scale.
Contracts, yeah.
I could theoretically fall into the category I'm using enough CPU cycles that now I have to start reporting. Now I've got to report on all the stuff my code is doing. First of all, I'm a solo operator. That's an incredible burden on me. Like I'm barely managing my, the contracts and the jobs and my day-to-day responsibilities as it is. Now I've got to orchestrate a whole reporting arm for my one-man operation. I mean, that's essentially what's being asked here. Yeah,
that's why it's gotten so much harder just to start and run a small business and do anything. But that's the thing. This is what kills me. Is it gets so hard that people. I actually saw someone the other day saying, everyone telling you work for yourself, because the joke about working for yourself is quit your job, get paid less to work 80 hours to be your own boss, right? That's the thing about. You see people going, actually, it's pretty good to have a job. And I have seen people say some pretty crazy things like, I should just quit and go on welfare. This is too hard. And that's just basic inflation stuff. If we're not creating stuff and it's just the government, I mean, at a certain point, guys.
So you've got to take a look at this part I can speak to. The people who actually create new jobs and small business owners, and like there's amazing, great ideas that never scale because no one's looking to scale that. Right. And then you've got an operator that has a vision that is able to take that one idea and turn it into something that's like, fastest growing blah in the nation, makes Inc. 5,000, Inc. 1,000. That takes a special person because they know that they are willing to scale. But in the beginning, all these smaller operators that don't even fail, they just maybe don't make it past first generation and then retirement, right? And that has to do with they may not be doing stuff right. When people call me up, it's not that they've done everything right. They might not have started up a retirement plan yet. They might have started the wrong retirement plan and now they have headaches with ERISA. People will do stuff, and it's not until they get caught that they realize that they did it wrong, or they figure it out right before they need to make a jump to the next level. Right.
And that'll be an $80,000 fine.
So that may be the fine, but hopefully they get through enough of it and realize before they hit whatever wall it is that regulatorily burdens them, or before they need to take in additional capital, they get counsel from somebody who's looking to put that money in, is ready to make that conversation happen, right? Because maybe if it's just you bootstrapping and it's not doing anything and making enough revenue for you to actually want to scale it, hopefully the people that you partner with would know that, hey, you were too small at the time, but now with this extra microscope on you, you're probably going to need.
But look at what we're talking about with AI, and so just to push back on that idea, the whole reason why these AI projects work in many cases is because you're able to cheaply dig at problems that don't work at scale because it requires human intensive labor, right? And so if you say, okay, but now because you're digging at a problem that you couldn't before because you don't need to use human intensive labor, we're going to add a human intensive labor. It just feels like what's the point? You're basically saying you can't use AI because the whole point of AI is to take humans out of the process, but we're going to mandate that you put humans back into the process. So it just feels like a de facto way of outlawing AI.
Or at least making sure that productivity is recaptured somewhere else so that they don't have to come up with the true value of what a human life would be. And I don't know.
So it's like that cartoon you sent me this week. It's like, I'm feeling like ending it all, man. Don't do it. Your
really
life
important.
is worth something. And it turns around, it's the IRS saying something. I mean, I guess to kind of button up this story, here is a headline from 2019 from the UK Independent. AI deemed too dangerous to release has made it out into the world. And what it meant by too dangerous to release, extremists could generate synthetic propaganda and white supremacist screeds at will. And it's been released out into the world. We don't know how to stop it. 2019, I have not seen any white supremacists farm out their work to AI so far.
They're still doing it. They're still keeping it on the farm themselves.
I mean, it feels like they enjoy when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And I don't see white supremacists saying I hate my life. Like they still love doing what they do.
You'd think they'd write better. That's the thing I never got.
Well,
how can they put the word supremacist? And I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I guess it's good that there's not Nabokov level.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess this is a positive thing.
Right.
This isn't something we should complain about.
Yeah.
But, the AI. It's kind of like when they're talking about these safety standards. It's a bit like imagine a short movie or a clip of Melissa McCarthy as a cop giving jaywalking tickets to Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator. Because if AI is this dangerous, they haven't thought it through. If it really did, it's a little late. It's not even the barn doors.
Yeah, it's over. It's just, it's the hangar for the T-1000 is
what is
open,
even the point if they're scared of doing it?
Because that's not the point.
It's not ethical.
It's exactly what Vivek said on stage at the North American Blockchain Summit. It's not that they are misunderstanding the technology and trying to apply a bad framework to it. They understand what it is they're doing. They're just anti-innovation.
You have to look through the lens of Washington. There's a bill that they're trying to push to the Senate right now for the immigration on the border. And it's being acted like, oh, we just found out about this. We have to move. The Republicans and Democrats have to work together to make sure we solve these crises. As cities are having problems spending billions. We're not sure what to do, blah, blah, blah. And then it turns out the thing was written 4 months ago. It's just like the Patriot Act or the other stuff, where literally Washington has shelves. It's like the military where they say, what would we do if 4-foot aliens came down and invaded Rhode Island? Let's see. I think Tommy worked on that in 1964. We bombed them. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much what... Oh, right. As you say that from there. I mean, that's that because they have all these and then someone comes along later and goes, they created this contingency plan. They had it planned the whole time. You're like, no, they have 1,500,000 of these things.
Yeah.
Are we a speedy boy?
Yeah. What has he said? Or is he playing something?
I think it was.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to that end, and this is something I haven't seen talked about in the context of this discussion online, surprisingly, but it showed up on my feed in this exact way. I don't know if this seems like it would be the most amazing coincidence in the world, but the same day that the EU has deemed Bitcoin mining an ecological disaster and must be regulated as a possible threat to the planet, President Biden also miraculously had a dozen-page long executive order saying that we need to more closely regulate Bitcoin mining in the United States and mandate them report a bunch of details, including GPS coordinates of their machines and specific energy usage to the energy.
I'm not a fan of that word.
Which one? There's
Deem.
a lot of deem.
Whenever somebody says, "I seem to deem this or that," I'm just like, "Who are you?" I want to start cursing at him. Who up is you?
Well, so
You deemed that?
the WHO in this case is the European Commission.
Exactly. I think it proves my point.
They labeled the Bitcoin as environmentally harmful, a threat to EU energy security, and a haven for financial criminals, potentially leading to
Is
a
blowing
de
up the
facto
Nord Stream
EU ban.
pipeline bad for EU energy thing, or is that not a big deal at all?
I mean, you can't. It may be bad, but if it says something bad about Russia, you can't.
I'm just saying there might be other things for energy security that are a bit more important than.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
We're talking about at best this is 2% of the total grid in the EU for sure.
I don't think
So,
you understand the conspiracy that's unfolding in front of us, and it's very obvious. And we can tell from El Salvador adopting Bitcoins. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's very clear that the government is trying to drive rich, successful people like Musk and others into hideouts in the layers of volcanoes where instead of being dormant, they're using those volcanoes to mine Bitcoin. We're creating supervillains around the world by the only people who can afford to use Bitcoin have to live in volcanoes.
I mean, it's literally true. They are mining Bitcoin in a volcano in
You
El
thought I was just
Salvador.
making that
Like, it's not even a joke. That's actually what's happening.
You had no clue it was going that way.
Yeah. So,
How does that work with like cooling?
well, I mean, so it's all about energy, right? They don't put the miner in the volcano, but you're using geothermal energy to power the mining facility, which is nearby.
It's like a dryer
Okay,
vent. You know
that's
how
a
when you
little
can smell-
misleading. A little misleading.
When you walk past a house, you can smell if the dryer's on. It's like that. Oh, they're making Bitcoin today. Yeah. Does that smell sulfur?
So, yeah, there's a lot here in the EU paper, and it was miraculously completely mirrored in the Biden executive order. And I spent a good hour today in a bunch of Twitter spaces that were being held by industry associations in America for the Bitcoin mining industry. Nobody mentioned that this was part of it. Nobody seemed to be either mentioned or wanted to acknowledge this part of like a concerted effort globally, like the EU coming out on the same day as the executive order. That's obviously not a coincidence. Like somebody had a meeting in Davos a couple months ago and that was it. The other thing that I found particularly puzzling and perhaps infuriating, which makes me feel really bearish, quite honestly, about the future of Bitcoin mining in the United States, is the fact that everybody and every association that was represented on that call, with the exception of one, was treating this executive order requiring them to provide a bunch of very intrusive information as completely blasé. Oh, this is not the hill we want to die on. We want to be transparent with the government. We want to give them our freaking GPS coordinates. It just, to me, seemed absolutely delusional about the future of what this means for the industry. Like, as someone who literally went to prison for disclosing information, regulation, disclosing information to the government about Bitcoin usage, looking at the pattern of evidence about what's being asked and thinking, oh, this is just fine. What planet are they on? Like, I don't get the thought process that, like, I understand what they're saying. I understand the words that are coming out of their mouth. They're saying, well, we want to be transparent. We want to provide this information. But doing it under the guise of an emergency executive order seems really problematic to me.
Does the government have the GPS coordinates of every electric substation? I'm just curious.
Probably not.
They don't have, so they have data. There is the organization they're asked to be required or asked to be providing information to does have some of the data like that for electric companies and for large scale users of electricity.
Because it's my understanding that if you, let's say that you are a data center, you're an actual data center. You've got a footprint, you have a lease, you've got 5 megawatts of capacity on your data center. I kind of feel like the electric company already knows you're a data center.
Correct. Absolutely.
So
why not ask the electric company? Give me your client list.
Like,
And what the address
when
is.
has it ever been helpful to self-disclose to anything for anyone?
Right.
I often come home and would tell my ex-wife everything I did wrong that day in the worst context possible in case she wanted to use that against me.
Yeah.
Just in fairness, because she wasn't there, I got to tell her I had too much fried food at lunch. I was playing a little Candy Crush at 3 instead of finishing that document. I looked at a girl in the subway. I looked back, but I looked, and then I wrote it down and handed it to her, and then had it notarized, of course, just in case she wanted to use that in the future.
What are the teeth? What's their
Well, teeth
like?
is Mark. Here's a compliance thing. You didn't follow up. It's no big deal. It's like your franchise tax in Texas.
This
You
is
have an
exactly
LLC,
what I was asking.
You don't file that piece of paper, it's a $50 fine. Even if you didn't make any money and just had it sitting out there. It's a small thing, not a big thing. You should have filed the paperwork. What happens when it's 15, 20, 30 pieces of paperwork? Or if you don't click a box on the SEC website and they use that to say you're running an unlicensed money lender operation. I mean, that's the whole point, is to wait until they need you and then they hit you. Hey, Frank, we need you to quit talking about this. Or I can't help but notice you didn't fill out this form in 1988.
Is there an actual regulatory agency or body and fines specifically addressed or attached to it? That's my question.
Civil and criminal penalties from the EAI, which is the Energy Administration, or EIA, NRBG,
And that's
Information
what
Administration.
we're saying, that like some other countries' fine is acceptable to the United States. Like,
No,
what-
it's
what-
it's the EU thing happened the same day as the executive order thing.
right. And the executive order has penalties of some sort.
The executive order has penalties through the EIA's current method of enforcement, which I haven't looked deeply enough to see which branch of government the EIA sits under, which division, but they're just like the other alphabet soup
I
organizations.
mean, they have Commerce, they have DHS, National Institute of Standards and Technology, so DHS and Commerce. Surprised the SEC isn't asking for something extra for it, but I mean, those are the two big ones.
They specifically reached out to, I think it was 84 independent crypto miners, Bitcoin miners in the United States, and said you must respond to this survey under this executive order, and if you do not, civil and criminal penalties may apply. 84 is not a lot, but it's all the big ones that you've heard of, certainly all the publicly traded ones, and if they start there, where are they going to end? And here's the other thing, to your point about data centers, they're not going after traditional data centers. They're only going after Bitcoin mining data centers, which is specifically, it's unequal application of the law at very, very minimum.
Now, those data centers,
Seems like it would be very easy to fight it on those grounds.
I'm not sure if you know this, but like just driving down the street, I saw that there just so happens to be a pretty big one right around the corner.
Yes.
And just them.
it's killing our environment. I think we ought to go protest.
No, I'm just saying that, like,
need to get some
literally,
vegan-
it's like
vegan
it
burritos?
looks like a pretty solid operation.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as cleanliness, looks pretty clean. Don't see any,
Yeah, there's no
steam or nothing
smokestacks coming
out.
out of any of these Bitcoin
Yeah,
miners. Yeah.
And I don't know if they do crypto only or if they do a variety of a lot of different stuff, but I bet they'd be somebody that we should reach out to,
Boy,
try to
data
get them
center
on
in
this show.
Texas
That'd be
doesn't
kind
seem
of
like
fun.
the brightest thing.
That'd be kind of fun.
A data center in Texas, isn't it a little hot?
I mean, actually, Texas is a great place for a data center.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, number one,
Well, different grid, so there's some
so
backup stuff. But
there's a lot of energy benefits to it. Second of all, when you're talking about Bitcoin mining data centers, it's not necessarily about keeping things cool. It's about keeping things under failure temperature rate. And so really doesn't matter. And these things like fail at like 115, 160 degrees Fahrenheit, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
So as long as you can blow out the hot air to below that level with just fans, you can run it in the middle of the desert, literally in the middle of West Texas in a container.
I mean, you could run. I'm going to West Texas. Have you done
Yeah,
that before?
and then you've
That's
also got
sick.
the immersion. You've got liquid immersion. Which
Yeah,
is
immersion is also a thing,
amazing.
too.
I didn't believe it. I saw one out in
Liquid
West
immersion?
Texas. Yeah, went out to a data center out there, which was very entertaining. That they actually asked for GPS coordinates because that's how I found this one. But like, I got out there and it's a legit data center, and it was running so quiet, and I was like, "There's just
Yeah, they're
no way
loud
this is
normally.
what-" And it's because the computers were literally in liquid, right? And
Like a plastic wrapped around them or something?
I'm like, can I touch it? Yeah. Put your finger in the oil. Like, it is amazing.
It was oil?
Yeah, it's like a mineral.
It's like a C3PO bath?
And it was fascinating to see it.
Yeah.
Because it's real. It's real.
That's pretty
and
cool.
It's quiet. And you didn't need air conditioning.
Hopefully we can start put some of our workers that return to the office into that same thing so I don't have to hear them.
There were workers. There were workers there.
That's actually what you call a Bitcoin miner in the management software is workers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we are putting workers in a mineral bath.
That is just... Well, I'm glad that worked out. By the way, do you remember we talked about last week, 2 weeks ago, what an impact we make?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
What did we say? You weren't here. I believe it was Mark. When we said we get results, what is it that I said I put in the universe? Do you remember?
I remember we talked
And I
about
said,
it.
if it happens, we need to think seriously about this. Because everything we say ends up happening.
Something about was it your lottery ticket winning?
was a
or something?
McRib.
McRib. Oh,
the
that's
McRib
right. Yeah,
coming back.
the
Now,
McRib.
this is actually important because it's not coming back in the U.S., but it is being reintroduced in Canada.
Right. So
I'm like, look at that. I mean, so I was a little off. I should have been specific. I should have said in the U.S. and not just.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
So ponder before the end of the show how you're going to manifest something positive for people in, let's say, Dallas County.
Dallas County.
Yeah.
I don't.
Where we're at.
Liquid immersion. That's fun.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Just showing Jim like the people do this.
That's pretty cool.
On their own PCs.
So I guess to button up this crazy Bitcoin thing, because it is to me just absolutely bonkers. They're lumping AI in with Bitcoin. There's that Twitter link from Bitcoin Pierre that's on here. That they're, this is that it? The same one? No, I'm sorry. It was the Bloomberg article. You had it right. AI needs so much energy. They're keeping old coal plants around in certain parts of the country to transition them off to more clean energy. And these articles are starting to pop up already.
It's probably clean coal. Just
Yeah,
saying.
I'm thinking it's clean coal. They wouldn't want to harm the environment. Anyway, whatever. My point being is,
Oh, you mean Liz Cheney coal instead of that dirty Pittsburgh coal?
yeah, that's what it is. It's Virginia, so it can't be the Pittsburgh coal.
I don't think Virginia has clean coal.
Take it up with Mr. Virginia. I
That
don't
would
know.
be weird if it did.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, point being, in all seriousness, the positioning, the PR that has been happening from Digiconomists for the last 10 years about Bitcoin, they're already starting to build that. They're circle the wagons around AI. And as David Johnson said at the North American Blockchain Summit and has in other subsequent, press interviews, Texas is like a $2 billion industry for Texas that's directly under threat by this administration and a lot of anti-innovation members of Congress. And so primarily on the Democrat side, but not exclusively.
I don't like your use of the word anti-innovation either. I have a lot of problems with words today. I'm going to go pro-corruption or pro-lobbyist instead of anti-innovation. I think that you're kind of putting your finger on the scale, mocking these people, when really they're just trying to take care of their lobbyist friends. So,
Sure.
anti-innovation. You can see what he was trying to do, right? Chomsky over here, changing the language. Pro-corruption. It sounds nicer.
Right. Yeah.
I've never looked at a bill in my life. I just sign what they put in front of me so that my kids can... That's all.
I got to keep my mouth shut. No, I can't.
defending
now.
the government here.
I can't. I just I'm so torn on Ken Paxton. I'm so torn on him personally. Like, we saw what's going on with his actual personal lawsuit and how much of a thug he was on TV, and like everyone, like, but what he's doing with like the federal government and protecting the borders in Texas, like that thug behavior is actually working. I'm just like, I'm blown away. I'm torn. It's like,
You're old enough to have seen New Jack City, though.
yeah. It's like, I mean, I love that. It's like, thank you. You nailed it. There we go. I'm good. I don't feel so bad.
He buys baby formula. I don't care if he sells crack to him.
I mean,
He's growing a new generation of customers.
if I pretend that I'm not an anarchist and I talk about politicians, I feel very torn as well, because you've got Ted Cruz, who represents a lot of kind of repugnant viewpoints in terms of where I sit politically, that is probably in Congress one of the best, most informed and intelligent people to talk about how Bitcoin mining is actually positive for the grid, positive for energy production, positive for keeping the lights on when you've got freezing weather outside and it's in danger of otherwise going down. Like, there's nobody better that talks about that. There's also nobody better to use as a punching bag whenever the weather does get cold and he's jetting off to Mexico because he doesn't want to be around when the real problems hit. Like,
Oh yeah, it was Cancun, right?
yeah, Cancun, right? So like, I'm very torn when it comes to literally any politician, because it's very hard to say anything good about them for very long, because the more you examine them, the more problematic they all become.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. I was just ending you with some very
Thank you. Winners appreciate it.
Winners don't go to D.C. Period.
yeah.
They don't. They don't go to D.C. Everybody know. We used to know this stuff. If you're pretty but dumb, you go to L.A. If you're ugly but smart, you go to D.C. And if you're pretty and smart, then you go to New York. That might have been the New York centric view of stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
Is that why you went to LA, Jim? Because I mean, hats off to you.
I was misinformed both at my level of attractiveness, and I was not informed how. I don't know. I went from Florida to California, so there wasn't really that much of a change and not bright stuff going around me.
Right.
Tampa to L.A. is really more.
Florida man to California man is really just a change of scenery.
Yeah.
I just like to think that, if you're wittier than you are pretty, you should probably stay out of loud bars, So
Fair.
Crap,
There
now
are-
I sit there. Which one am I? This is it's like a middle school taunt. It's amazing. Like, I have to sit there going, am I witty or am I pretty? If I'm pretty, that's weird. Which one? And then I'm just stuck in my own little head for a couple of hours. Yeah. Well done, Frank.
Yeah.
Jim,
Well
just
done.
embrace being the himbo of the podcast. It's okay.
Well, I live in my own fantasy world. I think we can.
I just don't know what happens to you people when I'm not in view. Like, do you guys disappear? Do you keep running subroutines of your own?
Frank thinks, therefore we are. So, what do you think about this, Frank? Tether. So someone put out a interesting, I don't know, it was an incomplete thought, but then it took and went viral and had some legs. Is Tether perhaps the best business ever by a variety of metrics? The first response was, please go on. And he's like, I don't know. That's all I got. But then a bunch of other people actually came in underneath it. If you use the metric of revenue to number of employees, I think they got 19 employees or something at Tether, maybe it's 29 employees. It's ridiculously small. They've got a $1 billion market cap. No, sorry, not 1 billion. It's a $100 billion market cap. That's a difference of 10, factor of 10.
That's substantial. Now, the way that goes from here is they would have to have some sort of an exit event to actually justify that valuation. But if there's only 19 employees at that company and they have that much revenue coming in, I mean, I had this conversation yesterday with a guy who had created a bot and did very well for years with that bot, and you have to pay your taxes because you just don't have any expenses when you have technology. It's like your compute and your electricity bill, right? That's pretty much it once it's done. And I think that's what you're seeing. And today with Facebook and Amazon, killed it, murdered their numbers, just absolutely out of control. Facebook was up 20% earlier today. I'm not sure what it is right now. That being said, it's a complete program. Sure, you want to continue to innovate and come up with other ideas to keep people on the platform, but you've got a pretty captive audience and they've got a pretty compelling brand. And that's why, how many more employees do you need from any of those companies, right?
Right.
You don't need as many developers, and then it eventually becomes maybe like an Oracle, like a utility, electronic component type program process. But right now they're creating and innovating and don't need that many employees. So I wonder how long before, as we've seen, more of these employers start to scale back, because we love what you've done for us after 30 years. We appreciate it. But yeah, you're not getting this bonus. We're going to fire you via Zoom 5,000 at a time right before you do that bonus. I just saw that on someone's LinkedIn the other day. It's well, yeah, makes sense to the shareholder for shareholder value, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, so if you go down the list, so the $100 billion market cap is based upon hard assets backing them, right? So like it's not even a question is that what they're worth? That's what their audit says, right?
Right. Okay.
But when you start talking about, okay, so profit, where do they get their money from? They reported a record $2.85 billion of profits in the last quarter of 2023 with a total of $6 billion in net operating profits for the year
Wow.
off of double-digit employees, low double-digit employees. Profitability is primarily due to interest earned on its vast U.S. Treasury holdings. Reverse repo, money market fund investments benefiting from the Federal Reserve's interest rate hikes.
Wait. So let me get this straight. Remember, we talked about regulation is it's the incumbent that wins, right? Mm-hmm. That was Bill Gurley. They got regulated. They were forced to buy treasuries.
Right.
Their interest with all their deposits that didn't all leave them, basically locked in at pretty much the high of the market. So now they've got a higher mark on the value of their bonds as well as a very high interest rate. Are they public?
They're privately held.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're good. They're good.
They're really good.
They're good. Yeah, they're good.
They are, again, the dominant stablecoin player in the market.
Don't get canceled if you work at that company. Don't
Right.
get fired.
So they claim that they're backed 1-to-1 to U.S. dollars. It's actually not true. It's over collateralized by like a significant percentage point. I think it's like 300 basis points, 600 basis points, something like that. Mm-hmm. Which is
Such a funny word.
yeah.
So
I'm not wealthy. I'm over collateralized.
I like that. I'm going to steal that.
They're 100% not going anywhere. Like there is a strong. So this was the big zinger on the thread. If the U.S. government was S tier and not tearing itself apart, it would have shut down Tether, copied the whole playbook, buying its own bonds, backing all digital assets with USD, and securing another century plus of hegemony. Instead, we got Gary Gensler.
That's funny. Oh, wow. When they say S tier, are they talking about the Mercedes? Or are they talking about like the superhero rankings in One Punch?
Like, yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah.
That is fascinating, though.
Crypto. Come on.
When you told me that they had that many, like they were like the single largest creditor on that particular, I was like, oh my goodness. I mean, they basically have been. That's basically the U.S. dollars. You know what I mean?
We'll be fine. Everything's in great hands.
They are single-handedly promoting the usage of U.S. dollars south of the border more than any other government program, intelligence, military, or banking or otherwise. Like because it's so easy and cheap to use on the Tron network of all things. Tron network has the lowest transaction fees, and an Ethereum-like EVM, it's very popular to use. It's not used much for smart contracts, but it is used a lot for transactions just because of the way it's engineered. It's very popular in Southeast Asia as well. A lot of gambling and betting services use it, and they're all using USDT for a couple of reasons, but primarily because of their market position.
Did you see the IPO of the U.S. company this week? I totally forgot. I blanked on what it is, but they basically own like half of the gaming apps here in the United States. They went public.
Oh,
huge,
no, I didn't
huge
see that.
IPO this week.
I
Huge
saw that it was
IPO.
happening, but I didn't really dig into it. No.
Because gambling's wrong. People do it.
Yeah. Oh, it was that type of a gaming is what you're saying, like gambling gaming.
Yeah, literally they have like 41% of the order book market.
I wonder how much DraftKings pays Taylor Swift.
Don't know. I don't know how I know the answer to that.
Oh, Taylor Swift. Okay, let's go with it.
Why the arm?
Why do we celebrate this oligarch?
I'm still looking up the gambling thing. You completely laughed me on this one. All right, talk to me.
Wow, there's a lot of all the commercials now. Everything around the NFL and everything is gaming. Bet the games, do the sports stuff,
Yeah.
your fantasy games. So it's crazy. So it makes sense that this is just a big money play for the gaming things to crypto didn't work with the NFL last year.
Sure.
By the way, did you see the Larry David thing where he goes, "Can I join the class action against me?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I was paid in crypto.
Right. He was paid in FTX tokens, which are completely, well, not completely, but almost completely worthless now.
No, it's a funny thing when people talk about billionaires. We all know that there's no such thing as a good billionaire.
Right.
It doesn't.
Unless it's Taylor Swift.
Well, if they get old, if they get old and they didn't accidentally didn't, so they've been around long enough.
Yeah.
That's a little different.
We don't all know that. I've brought that quote up like with
no
every
billionaire gets anywhere without doing something.
every
a little shady.
client I've had, and they're like, no, hard work.
No, because that's ridiculous. You might not remember this one, Sohail. Do you remember when Barack Obama was talking about there's no such thing as self-sustain? Like, you didn't do that. You didn't build that road. You didn't train
build
that
that.
schools. You didn't do it. That was a big push. And I was like, oh, my God, look at that. He's doing it. Now, she's a self-made person.
You didn't drone
Come
strike
on,
that
man.
kid on
she
your own.
sings. She sings. It was the right time. She's talented. But talking about her like she's Gates or Buffett or Jessica Alba.
Right.
I might believe Jessica Alba's a good person, but it might be because she's...
Kylie is a billionaire too.
Yeah, obviously, I think that kind of proves my point, though.
Did you also look at this real quick while we're on crypto gambling? This is something I love to talk about. No one talks about it. Seemingly, we don't even talk about it. But Drake, 100 million per year for stake. That seems low because they pay like gamblers like XQC upwards of 5 million a month. So,
Well, that's 60. Because it's Drake.
yeah, I mean it's Drake. so-
Maybe they're aware of some of the accusations about him with underage girls.
Yeah, I mean, so they lowball.
They lowballed him, huh?
Yeah, because
But
it's
I mean-
nothing like a cheap broken
I
asset.
mean, think about it though. Drake, right? Drake was Taylor Swift. Drake still will. I don't
No,
think
he wasn't
Drake's
nearly as
going
big
away.
as she was.
Oh,
Was he?
for sure.
Was
Are
he?
you- okay, I don't know. He's
I mean, I
not
don't- I
white,
don't know.
so maybe not. But he's not a white woman. White women win everything. But Drake is a white woman. Who are we kidding?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But he was on Degrassi, right? I mean, it kind of.
I mean, hey. But
Does he
no,
live in the
think about
suburbs
it.
and have a Stanley Cup?
He is on top of the world. Released a few flop albums, but his fans love him. Jen will blast it
Yeah.
all the time. And his whole brand now is Anita Max Win, is Stake.com, is crypto gambling. This Stake.com is housed out of a shack in Curacao. You know, it's like a tiny little operation that's making. You know, there's
yeah, but
no
they do that with Turks and Caicos. A lot of places do that.
right,
That's
but
the
there's
whole-
there's no stats on them paying people out properly on any there's no transparency involved, right? And Drake, the biggest celebrity, has just sold his soul to them. Talking about Taylor Swift and DraftKings, this is the seedy crypto underbelly of it.
And Drake's the sponsor. That's brilliant.
That is crazy.
That's like getting rid of your Bronco and creating the Escape.
See, this is why I don't get why crypto is so. Whenever I used to do OTC quite a bit, I would say a good 30% of the people that I used to work with that would sell Bitcoin to were online gamblers. But I was surprised that it wasn't a much bigger percentage because everything about crypto-based gambling, like the standards for it. I mean, it was one of the earliest applications of Bitcoin.
Right.
It was actually something that Satoshi said he wanted to be involved in the core spec for Bitcoin was a gambling thing because there's a ton of non-gambling application. I mean, insurance is essentially gambling, right? And so that's a major enterprise application for blockchain technology, and that was something that was kind of thought of as something that you could do with the Bitcoin protocol. Ultimately, it was kind of considered to be too.
And it came right after they shut down poker in the U.S. Remember, online poker was a big, big deal, and then they banned it. And then Bitcoin comes along. It was a way to...
But Satoshi Dice was one of the dominant applications for Bitcoin for the first, I would say, 5 years. A bunch of dice, like Just Dice, was really huge. And they all, not only did they use crypto as a means for using for payments and transactions, but they were also using the hash generation capabilities of the blockchain to have provably fair odds in all variety of gambling applications, because you are seeing the massive network computer of Bitcoin generating these random numbers every 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. You absolutely have a way to say, okay, now that dice roll wasn't faked, or those dice weren't loaded, those card deck wasn't stacked against me. Mm-hmm. It's provably random, it's provably fair. And the payouts, same thing, right? Money goes in, you can see what's in the pot, you can see how it's, how the odds are stacked, and money comes out. The fact that there are any non-crypto based gambling operations left in the world blows my mind, right? Why would they not be? Why would you play anything that isn't provably fair, unless you just want to flush your money down the toilet, in which case my Ethereum address is risen.eth. Flush it down that toilet. I'll take care of it for you.
Risen.eth.
It was actually FanDuel's parent, Flutter. Mm-hmm. So, and it's like 30 some odd $1 billion market cap now. So that's nice. I wonder how many employees they have. We'll look that up later.
Yeah.
Should we just quit, go to the islands, and start a gambling thing?
It's going to be hard. They own all the algorithms. They know exactly how people are betting. It's kind of hard to displace those guys.
There's one of my partners that's
We'll
probably
just pay somebody. We'll pay a founder. and sweat equity.
How much did it cost? How
Sweat
much was
equity.
Drake? What did we need to pay for Drake?
I don't need $100 million.
Yeah.
I need a discount Drake. I need to go to the mall and find someone trying to sell me some CDs still.
Just shy of 37 billion in market cap.
That seems like a lot to pay.
Shlomo is probably watching right now. Shlomo from Free Rostow. He is probably cringing at this conversation because I had a hand in turning down a contract for him and me to create a crypto gambling operation just because I felt like coming straight out of prison, it probably wasn't the right career move for me.
Right.
And he just saw all the dollar signs and said, "But come on!" So,
That's how I feel about your RFP engine right now.
yeah. Okay. DEI. So this continues to come up. Mark Cuban got into some hot water
Twitter
again on
He was
Twitter about
fighting
DEI.
with a rabbit. That's
Yeah.
the funny part. The handle was called Rabbit.
Well,
Like
here's
Rabbit
what I
down.
don't understand why he wants to actually engage in this. He was talking about on a podcast I heard recently how he doesn't like to bungee jump. He's afraid of heights. He seems fairly risk averse. It's like he's literally just monetized an asset. Everyone knows what he's worth now. Why would you want to get involved in a DEI suit via Twitter?
There's questions of whether or not he's trying to go public or what he's trying to do because he sold all that stuff. But we talked a little bit last week, the inside baseball. I sat there when I've been in a room where the head of Dallas Mavericks HR talks about what they did. So what he did, Mark went on Twitter and he asked the question: is it ever okay? Or basically, he just got into the questions of DEI. How do you hire a diverse workforce? How do you make it? His first question was, how do you make an objective decision? The last job you got, what was the objective reason you got it? And from there, he kind of pivoted into, we don't understand interviews, which is very true, and then to the DEI aspect of it. And people started going at him. And one guy, they're all like, "Oh, well, if diversity is so great, then how come we don't put a short Chinese woman on the Mavericks? You're a hypocrite until you do so." So it's a silly argument. It's not the same argument.
So Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of it they were going through, but he didn't learn his lesson. He's playing with poop.
Yeah.
And he basically starts walking through it. So what happened with his organization is when he first bought it, it was all white guys. It was all white guys. And that's not a bad thing, but the point is that the Mavericks deal with minority populations, a youth population, much different than a bunch of rich old Texans that are out there. So how do you build up that brand? So they brought in, which is what you're supposed, how do you brought in people that made sense of the market? Now that makes a lot of sense. And that's where he's coming from. Nobody knows that. So he goes on Twitter and he starts talking about slates of candidates, diversity, how important it is and all this stuff. And he's fighting. And unfortunately for him, one of the things that happens in our industry is we have slates of candidates. Mm-hmm. And then we're supposed to, you can't, there are seriously companies right now where you can't hire if you can't find a diverse candidate. It's going to be hard to find that Somali engineer in Des Moines, Iowa. They'd rather just not hire. Well, it turns out he's talking about it. He goes, I don't use race as it, but it's one of the factors. And the EEOC commissioner pops on one of them and goes, yeah, dead letter wrong. What you're doing is illegal. And so when the EEOC pops up and says that, and then he's trying to talk through it, and in his fairness, just because the commissioner says something doesn't make it true. There is a process and all those, but she was like, it's dead letter there. I think Title VII. So he literally has just put himself on the block from an EEO commissioner coming out and saying, yeah, you illegally discriminated your organization.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but discrimination and hiring based on race is only illegal if it's discriminating against not white people. If you're
No.
discriminating against
It's
white
against
people,
anybody.
it's all good.
You can't. That's inaccurate. That's what many companies have taken, and this is the whole Scott Adams things for years about we're not promoting up because it's a tough question. How do you create diversity if you don't clear out the top? I mean, they don't get to that point. They just jump right to the end where everybody's happy and everybody's perfectly represented and all. It's a hard decision, and really wasn't a Twitter decision. I applaud Cuban for going out there. I don't think they're going to sue him based on his statements.
I think Cuban
But-
is our only hope for achieving meritocracy in this country, Jim.
Maybe 15 years ago, I would have agreed with you. But what has he done?
So this is the last time we talked about this on the show. The short clip from it got a little bit of engagement. When you were talking, I was trying to find the comment, and I found it 2 days ago from Austin CXE. You don't want a guy like me. This is quoting you, I guess, because you were talking about this. You don't want a guy like me marketing to girls your age. Yes, because the father of girls that age has no idea what they're into or how they look at things. That may be true for you people because the American family has been destroyed, but good and decent parents know so much about their children. So he's basically pushing back against the idea that old white guys at the top don't know about the other cultures other than old white guy stuff. That diversity, I don't know. I guess that's what I'm reading into this.
That's a very narrow interpretation of what I was
That
saying.
is wild.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's impossible, but saying in general, if the three of us tried to figure out right now, you have a son, my daughters are older, I can't figure out. We can do market research and others, but I don't even know the language. Think of all the horrible examples of marketing. My response to that, think of the horrible examples of marketing where people went out there and they tried to rap or be cool. And we're not talking about Spuds McKenzie. We're talking about like when city council members get out there and rap or dress up as the anti-coronavirus or all the other dumb things that politicians do to be hip. Or like that
Or give
wonderful Bank
Kylie
of America
Jenner or
executive
Kendall
singing
Jenner a
one.
Pepsi can. To
I
give
can
to a
assure
cop.
you, my father's already turning, but he literally said to me, "He's like, Frank, you never want to be like as an former advertising executive at a major firm on Madison Avenue. If you have a car dealership, you are not the person that needs to be doing that commercial. You hire someone else to be the face of your brand."
No,
You
but
will
you
never
do.
represent
They're
it right.
marvelously
And it's true.
effective.
You
They're
tell me it all the
marvelously
time.
effective. But that's the thing. But they're supposed to be. There's brash. They're standing out, and they don't care. They're already rich. They're not actually trying to sell more cars. They're just trying to
Yeah.
impress the guy down the street that they sold more than them when they're sitting around with their deals. That's the problem.
Yeah.
They're not trying to sell the way that.
My point
Yeah.
is that he does probably a better job running that organization than actually getting into a fight with a governmental organization that we know that never works out for anybody. So
I don't think he thought it was.
I think it's funny, interesting because he actually probably did the right thing for the organization. In all, the fact is that he's not supposed to talk about it, right?
Right.
He's not supposed to talk about it.
But there's no point in doing it if you can't brag about it. It's like going to the gym. If you can't push plates and put them on Instagram, why are you at the gym? Why do DEI if you can't go to your friends and swear how good you are instead of actually addressing the problems of hiring and working and building people up and promoting them? No. Let's just pick some random social progress topic.
I've had this similar conversation about the Barbie movie, talking about performative marketing so many times, and I'm just bringing this up because the Oscars are coming. And,
Well, it's okay. I mean,
Trying to get Oscars in there.
I do not have children. I do not have any experience in dealing with their personalities. I have nothing to say. I will say that my wife came home after her pedicure with Barbie pink. That's why she actually got the nail polish. It's Barbie pink. So it
I
definitely,
wear robots on T-shirts sometimes to impress Mark
go.
because it's old enough to.
I was looking at my robot shirt in the closet this morning. I was thinking, do I wear this one?
I had
or
a
the-
yellow woman for doing something from her childhood. They didn't drag me into it and yell at me about it. They just went, did it. That's the thing. Why can't people just enjoy stuff anymore? They always got to
Mark.
make it into politics.
Mark, what was that guy's name? Spud something? Or-
Spuds McKenzie.
what was his name? The commenter?
Oh,
Spuds
Spud-
McKenzie was the dog.
The commenter was Austin-CX2XE.
Okay, someone please check on that guy's kids.
No, I get what he's saying. It is
No,
it is
the
a-
people
it is
that
a-
think they know there are good parents out there, but it sounds like either a Mean Girls mom or someone who's very out of touch, who actually is in touch with their teenage child?
I mean, I hang out with my kid every day, but there's a wide delta between what goes on inside my kids' brains and life all day,
Yeah,
throughout
unless
their
you're
life
some,
and what I get to hang out with them for.
even with the highest emotional intelligence, it's just not meant to be that way.
No cap.
No cap. No cap.
She doesn't have any Russian background, so she can't be an oligarch. She's just a normal, filthy billionaire who did bad things. She's killing the planet, by the way. Why are they mad about Bitcoin when she's flying around putting all those climate gases into the air?
Yeah. Well, again, Bitcoin mining is only like 2% of the grid at best.
The reason that they don't want AI
Texas.
porn of Taylor Swift is so she can continue to fly around. She doesn't like that AI is taking all the energy. She wants to pump stuff into the atmosphere, flying around, ruining everything.
There was
It's a competition. She sees them as competition.
There was a book, I think it was like Hollywood Hypocrites or something like that, and it talks about all the people that are complaining about climate change,
Buying beach houses.
and like, gosh, I just want to say that I think he was the pilot for the Millennium Falcon, so I'm not going to get in trouble. But he was talking about his favorite hamburger and how he'll wake up in the morning and hop into one of his planes and fly to go someplace just to eat a hamburger and fly back home. It's like, okay.
Seems cool.
Yeah, all right, good. Yeah, CO2, great. Yeah, good times.
They're creating something that's really new. Speaking so my grandfather came up with this. He loved air.
Drone deliveries?
He loved flying, but he didn't understand we'd have more light aircraft, because the beauty of a light aircraft is that you walk away from the crash. Mm-hmm. It's basically a powered glider. So he goes, all these municipal airports, imagine if people just got in their gliders. This is what happens when you're too smart and you're playing in engineering too long. What if we all just got into gliders in the sky and went to work and landed at the airport and walked? What's funny is, guess what they've come up with?
Air
Flying
taxis?
cars?
Basically a version of that's like a glider that you can basically fly we might actually be flying to work.
I am still waiting for my jetpack. I'm waiting for my X-ray glasses. I am waiting for my Jetson car. I mean, we have kind of a Jetson walk, but the one where like I wake up, I get up, and it just does everything, and I'm ready. Like, come on.
Yeah. It just put you together. Right. Come on. Sorry about that, man.
I mean, we're a few years late, but I think we're going to get there. But that's a different topic. I wanted to spend some there. Yeah, like a lot of the stuff that you can do with drones right now is
Hamburgers, much more efficiently.
yeah.
Well, Mark, you were talking about Walmart drone delivery being done by like care package, right? Like parachutes.
Yeah, well, so that's been for like 5 years in Arkansas. They've been doing the fixed wing drone delivery,
So crazy.
and they're starting it in Dallas now.
But didn't you see? I thought there was like, what was the?
So if you shoot down a drone now you get a bunch of prizes.
Skeet
That's
shooting,
right.
with,
Giant
Absolutely
pinata in
right,
the
yeah.
skeet
sky.
shooting with prizes. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
I need a baby. Come on, baby bib.
But they talked about like I forget which, it's not Mr. Beast, but there was the guy that does a lot of sciencey stuff, and he did one about the egg drop, and he was trying to figure out how to do it properly with a rocket and stuff, and then he asked one of his buddies who was an engineer, and then literally got a letter back from someone in the government and said, yeah, you're talking about working on like missile defense kind of problems here, so no, we're not going to tell you how to figure out that calculation. Like,
I wonder
so
if
how
they
would
use
that parachute
They had
get around that, right?
So
You know what I mean?
Jerry Pournelle was a big part of that. It was on Reagan's Science Fiction Council in the 80s and pushed Star Wars and talked about all the things. So you had bright pebbles, you had the cones. What does space-based defense look like? And two of the things they had were literally, instead of missiles, which are not a great thing to have sitting in orbit in case they fall out, you literally launch a bunch of either iron rods or small little pebbles with guidance bars on them. This is back in the 80s, and they were thinking about it. So what do? Instead of, you just drop it, literally send it, and it's a rod with a stabilizing fin that hits a car, and then everything's gone. So it's actually kind of terrifying because it's not explosives. It can be used in civilian areas and all these questions. I wonder if any of the work behind that, because it could have been just made up at the time too to scare the Soviets. A lot of that stuff was there, but it'd be interesting if the work behind that was. They're like, you know what? What if we did that with drone packages?
Well, that's what they're doing now.
I mean, it describes it.
I don't have the name of the company in my head, but I have been.
Something stupid like dropped ball or
There's actually
Dropper.
There's actually a couple of companies that do this. Besides Walmart, one got very
drumped.
well.
They got drumped.
I got drumped. I hope it drumps soon. Terrible.
You're going to be the first one.
Drumped. Drumped.
They got very popular in or got led a very successful operation in Africa. They were originally going to be a drone delivery company that was on-demand delivery type stuff. Couldn't get traction that way, but they wound up deploying a distribution center for blood transfusion blood in the middle of Kenya. And so now they are the dominant way to get just-in-time delivery for blood in Kenya across the entire country. Their drop...
Yeah, think of remote areas.
Their
Colorado,
airdrop...
Appalachia, Alberta.
And they're fixed wing, right? And so their airdrop method is gentle enough that you don't have a bunch of blood splatter all over all over the
No
ground
blood,
every time they drop something.
No eggs.
Yeah.
Try not to put your push pins in with your balloons.
And I'll send it to Sohail before the show gets cut up, but there's a good 25-minute YouTube documentary that goes all in on the technology. It's fascinating to watch. Yeah.
That'd be neat. Yeah. And then that way you could get you give them your GPS coordinates, and then you could get them to deliver your Bitcoins to you.
There you go.
We talk about skills-based hiring as this big thing. Think about the importance of this now for Amazon or for whoever's delivering these things. How do you hire someone? Are you good at organizing? Are you good at packing? You just put them on
video
Tetris.
games?
You see how far they go through Tetris. Now they're hired as a drone drop package operator.
Yeah. No, I suppose so.
Hey, Tetris is how we learned to pack station wagons.
Yeah,
and
I still think
you're
it's
going to
great.
tell me you don't.
I love that. I love that insurance commercial. It's well played.
So
Anyone notice our sound engineer just got up and left?
yeah,
Was it something we said?
I think it was a bio break situation. So.
Oh, I hate that word.
I was gonna say the last thing we're gonna talk about. We have to keep talking until he gets back because no one can actually hit stop on the stream.
Okay.
So I was gonna skip this story because we're running a little long, but now we've got some more time to fill. Vision Pro.
I saw the guy who bought the first one. He goes out like he's holding it above his head. They have this picture of him.
Yeah. Had to go see a man about a horse.
Even better. That's even better.
Good. They're good. They're like those kind that are really meant to be like baked goods and not donuts. So
I'm trying to get to 209 pounds to
It's
play
not going to
volleyball
happen.
in 2 months.
It is not going to happen, Jim.
Not
It's
if I'm
not
eating
gonna happen.
donuts. Thank you.
I've been watching out there. It's been fun. I am going to go though.
All right.
All right,
Bye,
bye, guys.
That's
Hey, we
fine.
get donuts delivered. We had haters last week, and now we get.
I told you.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
It's actually a better way to go.
No.
And I don't know. Now that we've reached the end of the show and got donuts, I don't feel as compelled to talk about the Vision Pro now.
Just say something about it.
I will say that after having seen it and having seen someone on TV wearing it, you guys like to wear them or have to wear them? I hate even wearing glasses.
Why do I have to wear them?
Walking
Oh,
around,
glasses.
the thought of wearing something that big and that heavy, maybe they'll get smaller, maybe they'll get better. I have zero interest. No interest.
Pull it. Everything I
pretty heavy.
have to say about it. Pull up that OX Gout tweet, right? Where it started, how it's
that'd
how
be
it's
good.
going. Yeah, it's a pound and a half.
It's more than this, isn't it?
Yeah, it's more than that.
Yeah.
A pound and a half on your head.
Ugh.
This is
That's
all
it.
I've got to
That's
say.
the one I saw. CNBC on the right. Yep.
They're trying to show the Geordie from Star Trek version instead of the.
Well, this is
No, that was the Google Glass. Yeah,
Oh,
Google
was that?
Glass.
Oh,
yeah,
that's even
yeah.
funnier.
That's how it started, and this is where we're at. We
Is
are
it because it's immersive?
we are
Because you
going
don't wanna see it?
backwards. No, it's the same exact technology. It's AR technology.
So
Had
did you
a
prefer ordinal
plastics-
scale, or did you prefer the other Star Art online?
What?
Well, because one was augmented and one was virtual.
I'm sorry. What was the question? I didn't hear it.
Did you prefer the augmented reality from Sword Art Online Ordinal, or did
Oh.
you prefer the Elysium?
Well, I think Sword Art Online is going to have to be virtual reality.
I can't believe that
immersive.
you fell for this and started talking through it. This is what he talks about when he says that we're dorks and we have to watch this stuff.
You can't.
I just want my donuts. Can we end now?
That's bait. Yeah. All right. That's it. That's
No
all
cap.
I got. You want more than that, you're going to have to bring us some donuts. So I don't see any other people bringing us donuts here. So I think we're going to call this the end of the show.
Amazing.
You're watching The Merge, business, finance, and tech news and opinion. We keep you up to date so you don't have to go out there searching for what's new. You can hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, hit the TikTok subscribe, the Instagram subscribe. We're going to keep you up to date wherever you are.